David Samson, the former Marlins team president, had a very interesting take before we turn the mics on here today. He said that if he were still the Marlins president, that yesterday would have been an awful day for him.
Awful. One of the worst.
Really?
We're in May,
Right.
and we're talking Panthers and Heat.
Yes.
Yeah, the goal was to get all the teams eliminated as quickly as possible. That's the goal.
That's always the goal.
And you would have thought that headed into these postseasons with both of the teams being 8 seeds, the Panthers going up against an historic Boston Bruins team that set an NHL record with 65 wins over the course of the regular season, and a Miami Heat team that was going up against the number 1 overall seed Milwaukee Bucks in a sport where you don't see upsets of that magnitude. You would have felt pretty good about owning the summer if you were the Miami Marlins.
And certainly given the fact how great the Marlins are playing, 10-0 in one-run games, sweeping the Cubs, this should be the lead of the show, especially a local Miami show. And I don't even know when we're going to get to it.
Well,
when are we going to get to the Marlins?
Well, we wouldn't talk about that normally, probably.
Right.
But you should. That's my point. That should be discussed. It's a great story right now.
Well, just let off the show. And that's enough of that.
It
agree.
gets worse, though. We were talking about this in the pre-show meeting, David. So Tuesday, you have the Braves are leading the division. The Marlins are, surprisingly still close enough.
Hate the Braves.
Right now, if they would be a playoff team, right? But the season obviously doesn't end in April, but they'd be a wild card. So Tuesday, the Braves are coming in town. They lead the division. They just lost 3 out of 4 to them. And Sandy's on the mound on Tuesday. But also the Heat are playing, and so are the Panthers on Tuesday. So a game that you're looking at that could get maybe, 15,000,
10K?
17,000, maybe
Take
a
the
bump.
under.
No, I'm saying if the two teams weren't playing, you have a game that could get some attention because they're playing well and there may be a momentum getting fans out there. Now, realistically, very few people will be there because there's 2 playoff games.
And
same
yet,
day.
what you try to do is you market the fact that we'll be showing the Heat game. We'll be showing the Panthers game.
You market that?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
You
they
have
have
to
in-
market
in
that.
years past.
You have to.
We sit with our
Yes.
salespeople and say, we'll plan which TVs we'll have which games. And we always had to have the Marlins game on at every bar. But we'd put the Heat and the Panthers on as well.
How I've always wondered this, and I've thought it to myself. Obviously, 2012 didn't go the way anyone was expecting, right? And you guys got off to a slow start. How much of the Heat being in the middle of the big 3 and going on runs in the finals do you think kind of killed that momentum of the new stadium and all of that excitement?
It was a nightmare. Stu, do you want to know the worst day of my life?
Yes.
The worst
Professionally.
day professionally. That's for sure. When LeBron James said he was taking his talents to South Beach.
What about the whole thing like rising tide lifts all boats, something?
It's
No?
a bunch of horse
Your
hockey.
boat stays down?
All the
Wait,
boats
David
stay
claims that coming in the next couple of hours, there will be fake tweets sent out by the Marlins congratulating both the Panthers and the Heat, right?
down. Totally fake, right? All these teams cheering for each other. You say you have to, like the Hall of Presidents. We all root for each other, hate each other. We don't want each other to succeed. Publicly, we say we do. But when LeBron announced he was coming to Miami, and that was it. I'm taking my talents to South Beach. We knew that we were behind the Dolphins, and then the Heat were just going to be extraordinary. And don't forget, that came after the whole Shaquille thing. When post-Shaquille, they were tarping the upper deck at the arena for the Heat. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Dave, where were you? Can you put us that day when he makes the announcement? Like, where are you?
I'm at the team hotel. We were on the road, and I'm at the team hotel, and we're all watching. And we had heard rumors. If you recall, before he sat with Jim Gray, there were rumors that it was going to be the Heat. But we were unable to confirm it. We had a bunch of PR people trying to confirm it. We were trying to go through ESPN to confirm it, the NBA, because we wanted to be ready. Because we had to pretend that we were happy and excited, but we were miserable. And then he sits and he does that whole preamble. Do you remember?
Yes.
It was like minutes of stuff where you didn't know. And then all of a sudden,
He was nervous.
Give me a break.
No, he was nervous in that spot. He was. He was about to break a city's heart. It was a big announcement. The entire country was
Are
watching.
we really doing this, guys?
Well, I mean, Tony asked him.
Are we
But then he
breaking-
went to that Sunday night football game and he was in the booth and he put that Marlins hat on and you were back, right?
Are we breaking down the decision?
It was a good one.
For me,
Yeah.
what the Panthers did last night, we were talking about what we were going to lead the show with.
Yes.
And I'm glad that in a room full of Heat fan, that as a Knicks fan, I don't have to be here for that.
Oh, we'll
being the
get to
lead.
you.
Because I think the Panthers story is way bigger than the Heat story.
No doubt. It's listen, you have two teams down here, basketball and hockey, where the 8 seed beat the 1 seed. But what the Panthers did last night, it's why we say, and we have really nothing else to say other than this, NHL playoffs, most exciting thing in sports, best thing in sports, but we don't know how to break it down after that. Like, we have no idea, but
Yes, speak for yourselves.
it was an exciting moment. It was great, Mike. I'm an Islander fan, and I fist pumped twice yesterday.
What do you mean you have nothing to say beyond that? Beyond just, oh, that was cool. First off, it's really difficult to see these in your lifetime. Many sports fans will leave this earth having not seen their team pull off a playoff upset, let alone an 8-1 upset. And here in South Florida, at the same damn time, you have 2 8-1s. And now all of a sudden in the NBA, you look at it, and this was a sport that didn't have any parity whatsoever. The only teams that had a shot were the top 3 seeds, and you knew that for several years. You're looking at the Miami Heat as an 8 seed now with a 1-0 lead in the Eastern Conference semifinals, and it wouldn't absolutely stun you if they made it to the NBA Finals. And in hockey, there's been an 8 seed that's won the Stanley Cup before. In hockey, you know that that's certainly full of parity, and you just witnessed something that, while you think it's a top story, compared to the Heat's upset over the Bucks, when you look at just odds and lines provided by sports books, that was a far more monumental upset, the Heat's, than the Panthers, even though they ran up against a 65-win Boston Bruins team.
But hockey is random. And I saw Tony kind of shake his head. I still don't think the Heat are going to make it to the NBA Finals.
I don't either.
I'd be shocked if they made it to the NBA Finals.
Be
They're
shocked
gonna
if
beat-
they made it past New York.
They're going to beat this crappy Knicks team, though. We can agree. This team's not that good.
Conference Finals, yes, but if they beat either Philly or Boston, I don't know what I'd do.
So much
Well
cowardice.
said.
It's not Philly as much as it is Boston. I'd be shocked if they
They just beat the Bucks. At this point, you can't discount them anymore. I think the Bucks were the toughest opposition in their conference, and they took them out in 5.
But the reason I have the Panthers as the bigger story is that I believe that people in Boston are more despondent than people in Milwaukee.
Can confirm, as someone that spent almost all night and all morning commute listening to Boston sports radio, one of the best traditions of my sports fandom. Anytime one of my teams eliminate Boston, I run to 98.5 the Sports Hub.
What are they saying?
Oh my gosh!
Tell
They
us
don't
about
want to
it.
hang the banner for the President's Trophy.
Nice.
If they
That's a
honor
stupid
it, they
banner.
want it in a different
is.
color. There was one caller that said, "Get rid of the Swedes, all the Swedes. Just get rid of them." And I don't
Normally
even
in
know
Boston,
if
they don't say that about the Swedes.
yeah, normally. There was one Panther caller, I'm trying to track down the sound, that crank called them so effortlessly and magisterially and ended his call with Pitbull's Fireball. It was
That's how you do it.
A glorious night. They want their head coach fired. They don't want to salute Patrice Bergeron's incredible career. They think Matthew Tkachuk got in the head of their goalie. They think they made all the wrong moves. And they think that the Panthers are this never-say-die team with guts that could challenge the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I got to tell you, there was a minute left in that game. There was a minute left, and Bobrovsky was pulled, and the Panthers were super desperate to make the game level. And Brandon Montour, who has become a superstar defenseman in that league, coming off an All-Star game appearance, he has only gotten better. He had 2 goals in this game, and they get level with a minute left, something that you do not see, folks. You just don't see that. Matthew Tkachuk
With the screen.
getting in front of the net. Huberdeau would never
Eat it, Witty.
never do the things that Matthew Tkachuk did to get you that goal. And then in overtime, Matthew Tkachuk gets in front of the goalie again. And Carter Verhaeghe has a blasting shot. Top shelf, where Mrs. Moeller keeps a peanut butter. And your Florida Panthers are on to the second round. On to the Great White North. And on to the Toronto Maple Leafs.
We want Toronto. We want Toronto. We want
You're
Toronto.
gonna get 'em,
They were
all
doing
right.
that to
Yeah,
us.
they were doing
We're
that
gonna
to
get you.
us. Hey, Boston, I remember 90 seconds into this series, you were chanting, "We want the cup." 90 seconds into this series, chanting, "We want the cup." Do you know how disrespectful that is to your opposition? I'm so happy this happened to you. I'm so happy that this Florida Panther team found a way. They found a way to make it into the playoffs. Remember, a week before the regular season ended, we were talking about what a disastrous hire Paul Maurice was. What
And
did
now,
they do to this
let's stand
roster?
up. How about Paul Maurice?
Playoff-style hockey.
He told us all year long, playoff-style hockey.
If you have a choice to go to Toronto or New York, what's your choice?
I made the choice.
You're going
I'm going
north.
game 2, Toronto. Going
Hell
game 2,
yeah.
but not game 1.
Really?
Not game 1. That's tomorrow. I need to be here. Y'all need me, but I will be there Thursday night in Toronto. There's no Heat conflict that night. There is a Heat conflict.
Is Skipper
on
paying
Tuesday.
for this?
No, I don't.
This is not a business trip. This is a personal
no,
trip.
This is leisure. I love
Can I
going
give you
to
some
Panther
advice?
games.
That's a business trip.
For
Take
the
a
Panthers.
For the
microphone,
Panthers.
record a segment or a little soundbite,
Just do anything.
and
Yes.
anything,
Right.
and all of a sudden the company will pay for it.
Speaking of
I'm
observations,
here
maybe.
for you guys.
Mm-hmm.
That is a rookie move, Mike.
You're new to this company.
Yeah, time to make some changes. Damn right I'm new.
You're going to make them?
Yeah, you're not going to Toronto without having the company pay for it.
All right.
Period.
Well, I'm not gonna make content out there. I'm just gonna enjoy it.
Yeah, you make
because-
content, though. It's for free.
This-
all
Is the
David
IRS
says.
listening?
Yes.
Hello.
No. I've made content out of other trips, not this one. This one's for joy and pleasure.
Yeah, but this is the trip we need content for.
Also,
I
I'll
mean,
put all my exclusive trip stuff behind my paywall, which is super follow at Michael Ryan Ruiz, which then makes it a business expense.
All
but
for
not,
one and one for
but
all.
not for this company. I won't do that to this company. What we witnessed last night in Boston, I've been piecing it together, and I'm fairly certain what we saw last night is the second greatest moment in Panther franchise history. It tops winning the President's Trophy, which, according to Boston Sports Radio, is totally meaningless. And we saw last year, didn't really make us feel much better about the disappointment that came in the playoffs. Outside of winning the Eastern Conference in 1996, this is just the third time these Florida Panthers have made it to the second round. This is by far, I think, with a wide gulf, the second greatest moment in franchise history.
Greg Cody has it as number 1. I'm like, Dad, they made the final with that win. How is this bigger? And he just said, you know what? It feels like it. I'm like, okay.
He's right, though.
Deduct the trip, Mike.
So much to talk about locally. We gave the Panthers their flowers. Let's shift our attention now to the Miami Heat, who go up 1-0 over. I don't understand why the Knicks are so cocky. They're like a little happy to be here. They're all about wiping the floor with the Miami Heat. I'm genuinely confused as to why they think they're so good. They go down 1-0 against the Miami Heat. Jimmy Butler stays on the court despite an ankle injury that obviously limited him. And if Mike Schur were here, I know what he'd say. He'd say that Jimmy Butler was faking it. Jimmy Butler could not move whatsoever, and he still found a way to get a strip as Jalen Brunson was driving into the lane. You're a Knicks fan, David Samson. Why didn't Coach Tibbs adjust and say, let's go at the guy who can't move?
They just didn't make shots.
No, but they didn't.
That's the only reason they lost that game.
They kept Jimmy Butler out on the court. Jimmy Butler couldn't move. You have a guy with one of the best floaters in the league right now and superb quickness in Jalen Brunson, and Jimmy Butler was often caught on the switch, and they would not go at Jimmy Butler with one ankle. They just wouldn't do it. It was very confusing to me. I know Julius Randle is out, and they didn't make shots, but neither really did the Miami Heat. The Miami Heat didn't play especially well. So I'm looking at that game, that result, and I'm feeling pretty good about Miami's chances.
But why are you ignoring David saying?
Because Miami didn't play well either.
No, I know, but the Knicks were 7 of 34 from 3.
Yeah, Miami didn't play well either.
But if they do that 3 more times,
Right.
the Knicks won't. The Heat will win the series.
Yeah, but Miami didn't play well either. So, like, Miami still has to play a good game, too.
They played better than New York.
Yeah.
New York, they look tight, and that's the funny thing when you're not hitting,
Right.
what you always say is, "Oh my God, our offense sucks," but maybe it's just good pitching. You can't say the Knicks looked bad; they just didn't hit shots. When you're missing shots like that, by definition, your team isn't going to look
Didn't
good.
the Miami Heat miss like 14 consecutive threes at one point? Yeah.
They started, I believe, 3 of 17 or 4 of 17 from 3, and yet still hung in because of the way that they were playing against the Knicks.
But they finished 13 of like 40 from 3, so
That's
they got
not good.
better as the game progressed.
Yeah,
They shot
because-
just over 30%.
Yeah,
they
that's-
weren't great
Well, when
from
you
3.
consider
That's
what
what beat Milwaukee.
Yeah, but when
Yeah.
you consider what Jeremy just said, how they started shooting from 3, they got better as the game went
Yeah,
on.
but when you get a treetop view on it, Stu, like everyone that wants to say, well, the Knicks didn't play well, he didn't either. He didn't either. And their superstar got hurt. Jimmy Butler didn't have a great game. Credit to the Knicks. It seems as though they had a pretty good defensive strategy. When Josh Hart wasn't up in Jimmy Butler's grill, they'd have help defense, and they try to make the other guys beat them. And the other guys weren't beating them. Gabe Vincent had his moments, but that wasn't an impressive performance by the Miami Heat. What was impressive about it was they were able to overcome a deficit on the road pretty quickly and control that second half. But I don't know if it's just a Randall injury. Certainly that'll change the complexion somewhat, but I came away thoroughly unimpressed with the New York Knicks.
But did you come away thoroughly thinking it's not going to be a long series? Because I came away thinking it's going to be a long series, which is what I thought before the
7-game
started.
series, yeah.
You think that?
Yeah.
You think? I don't.
Why, Chris, you think it's over?
I mean, I just didn't
Sweep.
see anything
Cocky
there.
Heat fan.
It's not even cocky Heat fan. It's just unimpressed with the Knicks. And I know they didn't shoot the ball well, but you just want to do the thing of who are the best players on this court right now. Jalen Brunson, if that's what you're holding up there is this is our guy, he's just not even close to Jimmy Butler. And obviously Jimmy Butler is at his peak right now, but it's just I don't see anyone on this Knicks team that I'm afraid of.
But it hurt Jimmy Butler, right? Because now the ankle injury, we can't just say, oh, next game he's going to be fine.
And it was really bad.
It was
a
bad
really
ankle
bad ankle. And
Do we know how bad it was? Like, do we know?
Did you watch?
Yeah,
Like
no,
he couldn't move.
I saw. First off, he was celebrating just fine after the game.
No, he wasn't
okay?
celebrating
He wasn't
just
moving
fine.
that
That's called
well.
adrenaline.
No,
Yeah,
he
he was
wasn't
moving.
celebrating just
Right.
fine. He barely he limped off the court.
It's a 3 Toradol roll is what I look at. In order
Really?
for him,
Yes.
for him
That's
to
a nasty
play,
roll, man.
when
There-
you need 3 to play,
Yeah.
he's going to play.
After the game, he
think
was
he's gonna
kind of
play?
walking around looking to say hi to people, and I just got a feeling of like this doesn't seem. I feel like if it was like I'm gonna miss next game, he would have gone right back. He was walking around looking for who to say hi to. I'm kind of with them. It doesn't seem like it's
Tape
super
it up,
serious.
get some Toradol.
I mean,
he's
there-
not missing.
there's
It did
a
look
pretty-
bad.
there's
It
a
did look
pretty-
bad.
He wasn't moving. It's not even so much what the injury looked like. It's what he looked like on the court after the injury. He was very clearly
He just stood in the
affected
corner.
by it.
Like, he
You
didn't
had-
do anything.
You have a game in hand right now. I'm not certain I wouldn't send Jimmy Butler home and just wait for Game 3.
Not
at
till
home.
Saturday too.
I
You
think
get
that's
5 days
I agree
off.
with
I think
right?
that's a reasonable conversation that's already being had, which is we got the one win in New York, but also this isn't a dominant New York Knicks team. Like if he can
You
roll
should
him
pull-
out, run him out there, give it a go.
They should pull the. I thought you were going to say they should do the Bucks because early in the Bucks series you were saying that they're just going to sit Giannis because they're not worried about the Heat. I wonder if there's a little of that with the Heat here. Like the Knicks didn't scare
Not
us
worried
there.
about the Knicks.
No, I mean, you can't do that. You can't have that approach as an 8 seed, and I imagine Jimmy will want to be out there. But there's a pretty convincing argument to rest Jimmy Butler. We haven't seen Jimmy Butler get hurt like that, stay on the court, and just camp out in a corner. He wasn't doing anything.
Outside of Jalen Brunson, who is on this Knicks team that can strike any fear, right?
RJ Barrett,
Allen
Yeah.
Houston.
Obi
RJ
Toppin
Barrett
was
had-
shooting, and that guy sucks.
Ain't no
Patrick
stopping
Ewing?
Obi Toppin. I mean, Hart
Obi
can,
Toppin shooting threes, please
Hart-
have at it.
Anytime he would make it, I was like, oh my god. this
Hart
guy
can have
sucks.
his
How is he
moments.
making
Hart's a really good
They
player.
suck.
But RJ Barrett had an incredible game.
think
RJ
it's
Barrett
over.
isn't that kind of player
Yeah.
from the field. RJ Barrett can't shoot like that. You want to tell me about how the Knicks didn't
Neither
shoot
can
well?
Josh Hart, though.
Obi Toppin and RJ Barrett had really good games for them.
That'll be the Heat's plan all series, right? They're going to let RJ Barrett beat them. If that's who's going to beat them, then fine. They had Gabe Vincent starting on RJ Barrett for a reason. They had Jimmy Butler on Jalen Brunson because the plan was shut down Jalen Brunson, the Knicks' best player, and that's exactly what the Heat were able to do at moments. Jalen Brunson still got his at different moments of the game, but what was so impressive about this one is Jimmy didn't really have a great game. The Heat didn't shoot lights out from 3. They had moments from Gabe Vincent in the first half doing his best Tyler Hero impression. They had Kevin Love in the third quarter. They had Kyle Lowry in the fourth quarter. That's who won them the game.
The
Those
outlet
3
passes.
outlet passes
Oh,
from
things
Kevin
of
Love.
beauty.
Best quarterback in the building.
Yes,
Yeah.
vintage.
Hey,
Stu, we can,
hey-o.
We could go out and just have a heater right now because this, right, what's going on here?
Yeah, we
is
deserve
a
it, though.
one-game
Yes.
win, and you're talking.
Dude, we just
I
got
don't
done with the Bucks.
understand.
We got done with Middleton, Giannis, and Drew Holiday. I'm sorry.
You didn't get done with Giannis. He barely played.
He played the
That's
final
ridiculous.
two
He was on the
full
first
two
three of the
games.
losses.
In fairness, he
He had
played
38
the
and
final
20.
2 games, but you guys are awfully cocky. I
Dude,
mean,
it's because we're looking at a team that Drew Holiday it would be like the best player in this team.
Drew Holiday is talking about retirement after that performance. It's entering this Knicks series, seeing Knicks fans that don't really know what it's like to get past the second round in their lifetime just say Knicks in 5. Like, what do you?
2 weeks ago, you guys all wanted the Heat to tank to
Yeah,
try to
that
get
was
into
just-
the
that was
lottery,
then- that
and you
was
wanted
just
them
now.
to
Yeah.
tear the
Yeah.
team
That was
apart.
Now they're winning
You
the
wanted them
title.
to
Yeah.
tear the
Billy-
team
Yeah, and
apart
things
because
are
this
different
wasn't
now.
working.
Billy, we capitulated, we reconciled with that truth, and we've
No.
now moved on.
No.
We
We're
crazy.
acknowledged our
No.
failings.
No.
How
If
can
you are
one
Pat
series
Riley-
change breaking up an entire
Jimmy
blueprint
Butler.
and you're
Because
going to
Jimmy
win the
Butler
title?
Because
turned
they beat
into
the
Superman.
Because they beat the Milwaukee Bucks. So after beating the Milwaukee Bucks, I look at the Knicks and I see their bravado and their mecha talk, and I'm just
because
genuinely
they avoided the Bucks and got the
just
Heat.
genuinely, yeah, that's not a reward. That's
If,
not.
if
That's
you're
not
Pat
the prize
Riley,
you
you've
think
got
it
to
is,
get
pal.
game 2.
I'm with Billy. You didn't have the bandwidth for this a month ago.
That
They
was a
didn't
month
care.
ago. That
We're
was
crazy
then. This is
fans,
now.
and now we're
Okay.
here. Deal with it.
Dude, what?
Front
I'm not
runner.
supposed
Like,
to.
what do you guys
Why are
think-
you defending him?
Excuse me.
I'm defending Heat fans.
Yeah.
Like, we're here now.
He wanted them to tank too.
No, I did. I never like. Now
I'm
you guys
not.
are
I'm not
projecting
having
now.
this. I'm not having this. I'm not having this whatsoever. And you, sir, you called Jalen Brunson Rick Brunson,
I did.
and you called Josh Hart James Hart 2 weeks ago.
I really
Get
did.
out of here.
Yeah.
You don't get to shame me. Everyone knows I'm emotionally crazy. Jeremy was dismissing my fandom with catchphrases that I invented 10 years ago.
Right.
You don't get to do that to me. Everyone knows I'm insane.
That's exactly what I did.
The B in Rick Brunson stands for bricks. I mean, Jesus Christ, that guy sucks.
If I hear one more time, oh, he can get into the paint. Yeah,
Brick
and miss.
Brunson. I mean,
That's his dad.
yeah.
So Pat Riley, if the Pat Riley of old is not satisfied with winning one game in New York, Pat Riley has Butler play because you go for the jugular and get game 2.
You're totally right, and I also think there's nobody in here who's like satisfied with that win as that being it. It's just more of a, man, that was the Knicks' best shot in game 1 with that crowd, with all the celebrities that are there hyping up how cool Knicks basketball is. There's more celebrities at a regular season Heat game than there was last night. There's Bad Bunny's there, man. That's the only one that matters. Am I right, Tony?
Thank you.
I saw a tweet
What?
from Nate Jones saying Josh Hart was born to be a Knick.
What does that mean?
And I'm not even sure Nate Jones knows what that means. Can someone explain to me what does that mean?
Scrappy.
What is scrappy
Plays
about
hard.
what is scrappy about your history? What are you talking? What are the Knicks? Someone that was born to be a Knick? I mean, Josh Hart's been on 7 teams. Yeah, I guess he was born to be a Knick. He's toiled in mediocrity. He's a good guy, but I guess he was born to be a Knick because he's never in the playoffs. What does it mean to be a Knick? To be destined to this? Who would want that? You don't even know what you're talking about. You guys are so diluted by the fact that you're finally in the second round that you're making up these cliches as if they mean anything. The Knicks have no cachet. The NBA doesn't need the Knicks. The NBA's been just fine without the Knicks. Why? You just got to the party, pals.
It's insufferable.
I would tell you the NBA probably, if they had their choice, would want the Knicks in the NBA
Oh,
finals.
it's a loud arena. What else besides that?
It's
It's
a
not that
building.
exciting.
It's all about the lighting.
Light the beam.
Ben Stiller sitting courtside. Who gives a shit?
The biggest part of the history of the NBA is the Celtics and Lakers, and the NBA still has a shot at Celtics Lakers, and I guarantee you Adam Silver would take Knicks Lakers over Celtics Lakers.
Every day.
Yes.
And twice on Sunday.
Yeah.
The Knicks are, whether you like them or not, worth a ton of money. Yeah. That is why they're important to the league, because New York is a basketball crazy town. People love the Knicks, even though they have sucked for decades.
Their revenue has gone up every year. Their worth has gone up every year because fans, at the end of the day, are real fans. Not like South Florida fans. They make it through the losses. They don't run
They were
away.
They
Early
literally
yesterday.
all left early
They-
yesterday.
Leaving
There's
early.
video
By the way,
everywhere.
we don't care when people leave early. They paid the money.
That's the entire reputation. The Heat have, quote unquote, sold out every game for a decade and a half. What are we doing?
No, they have not. They have not.
Well, according to you, and according but understand.
Listen, I make up attendance like the best of them.
Right, I understand, but if we're going to sit
tell you
here and
right
talk
now.
about attendance and who's at games and who's a real fan versus a fair weather fan, I watched Knicks fans leave game 1. Game 1. Their first struggle in the playoffs. It's pathetic.
They've got to catch the train.
The best team the Knicks have had in 2 decades is struggling to compete with one of the worst teams the Heat have had in recent years.
I mean,
Facts.
look at these names out there. Cody Zeller, please change the color of your shoes.
That guy looks rough.
Please never change it.
Sets the screen with the best of them.
Cody Zeller, what are you doing?
Has he
Winning?
taken a shot?
I mean, the
drives.
the Zeller minutes are fun.
Yes.
I have enjoyed
They're
the Zeller
great.
minutes.
Yeah.
Has he taken a single shot? This
he'll
playoff
always
series?
end up in one fast break where they end up throwing him the ball, and then
And
he
he kinda
gets fouled.
stumbles?
And then he gets fouled and shoots 2 free throws. Every game.
He had a rebound and a steal yesterday.
0 for 0 plus 9.
700 picks.
0 for 0 plus 9. Yeah.
Heat won by 7.
Yeah, what?
He was the difference. They won by 7. He was a plus 9. The Zeller minutes.
The Heat are going to retire Jimmy Butler's number, right? Because Riley loves to retire numbers, and Jimmy Butler's getting his
There's
number
only like
retired.
3 retired or 4 retired. It's not that many.
Yeah, but Jordan's one of them. I mean,
So is Marino, I think.
yeah, it's odd.
That
Taking
drove
those
me
down.
crazy.
We've taken those down.
They're still up. They changed the signage.
But whether or not he wins an NBA final, even makes it to an NBA final outside of the bubble, he's getting his number retired. He deserves it, I think.
Not until they get to a non-bubble final
Really?
and win a ring. You
Has
gotta-
to win a ring?
To me, I think you need a ring. I know it's not the
2
case,
probably.
but I think a ring would be necessary.
I mean, Chris Cody called this. I think Chris said yesterday was a top 5 sports day in South Florida history.
No, I said the weekend. I said like a 7-day stretch.
No,
if you're just looking at success, 2 upsets of 8 versus 1 in a week. I mean, we haven't had a ton of success in South Florida.
It's
It's a
absurd.
pretty damn good week. If we're
It's-
just ranking weeks,
You'll never have a weekend like that again in your sports life. You're never going to have 2 8s over 1.
And a sweep of the Cubs.
You're never going to have that type of weekend.
Inter Miami won.
Cubbies. Yeah.
Inter Miami, 2 on the trot, all comps. You're never going to have. In fact, when you look at the last few months for South Florida sports, the women's basketball team took out a number 1 seed for the Miami Hurricanes. The men's basketball team took out a number 1 seed. They made it to a Final Four.
FAU.
FAU made it to a Final Four. You have
Who'd have thought?
the Heat taking out a number 1 seed. You have the Florida Panthers taking out a number 1 seed. That was one of my favorite parts of listening to Boston radio, is they would make all these points about their team choking away a 1-goal lead with a minute left at home and 65 wins and blowing this incredible opportunity they had. And then it would always be followed by an ellipsis to the Florida Panthers. This team has no history. We said with a straight face, because it's 100% accurate, that was the second best moment in franchise history. And we're all in unison in thinking that.
And you know what we're forgetting about now? Game 6.
Yeah.
We haven't even talked about Game 6.
Game 6 was
For the
as
Panthers?
fun.
my God.
An atmosphere. And they finally had a home ice advantage, Chris, because
so
Game 3
loud,
and
that
4,
place.
I'd never seen anything like that. The Boston Bruins, credit to them, their fans traveled really well, and they totally took over that building. So I thought we were marching towards the gallows for Game 6. And yet the Florida Panthers had an incredible home ice advantage. That was one of the best third periods you'd ever see. And you want to think back even further. Let's think back to Game 5 with that walk-off potential game winner. And Bobrovsky stopping the fast break with a second left on the clock. Bobrovsky wasn't great, but he didn't give up the cheap ones like
He
Alex
was good
Lyon
enough.
did.
At
He
the
was
right
good
moments.
enough.
He was
Yes.
great at the right moments.
He was solid enough. He's changing the narrative around him somewhat. This is such a bizarre team. You don't upset the number 1 historic seed like that without stellar goaltending play. They gave games, multiple games away, and they found a way to do it.
I wasn't keeping tabs. Whose fucking balls were in the blender, and are those fucking balls okay?
Everyone's fucking balls in the Boston area are in a blender.
Do you guys leave room for the possibility that this wasn't the best week in South Florida sports history?
Still to come in a couple weeks. I'm with you.
Because what do you do?
It's still ahead of us.
What do you do when it's coming in the next month? Do you look back at this and say, all right, that was number 1, but it was a short-lived number 1, and now we're moving it down to number 2? Or do you realize that you're overreacting to these first
You're
two
not
wins?
overreacting.
How can you
You're-
overreact to
You're not
this?
overreacting to this. This is not something you will ever see again.
We've just had so few good stuff, David.
So if they
will
beat the
never
Knicks
see
in
this
5
Well
and the
said.
Panthers beat the Leafs in 6, does that become number 1?
No.
I mean, if I think if they beat the Knicks and make it to an Eastern Conference Finals, ho hum.
Like, cool.
It was a bigger
Mike,
deal.
Mike,
It is a bigger deal
It was
to
a bigger
pull
deal
off the
beating the
upset.
Bucks.
You can only deal with what you know. And so right now, I don't blame a South Florida sports fan for saying that was a top 5 day in South Florida sports history. I don't, because it was a magical, special day. You beat the Knicks at Madison Square Garden, and you beat the best team in the history of hockey on their home ice. So you beat New York and Boston in a single day.
And swept Chicago.
That's a damn good day.
You guys
That's
are
a
acting
holy
like
trinity.
you've never had good days.
But you guys,
They haven't had many.
But wait,
the
you guys,
Heat have rings upon rings.
the Knicks Heat game is like
Just 3.
by far 4th on the list of this weekend. It was the Heat beating the Bucks in Game 5, the Panthers winning in the Panthers winning in Game 5,
Yeah.
and then Game 6, and then Game 7, and then the 5th
And then
place.
Inter Miami.
And then Inter Miami, then the Marlins
Yeah.
sweeping
And the
the
Cubs.
Cubs,
Sweep.
and then
Yeah.
the Heat Knicks. So like the Heat Knicks are like, we're happy the Heat are up 1-0, but that's not the story of this weekend. The story of this weekend is the Bucks series and the Panthers.
And you don't think that next weekend is a bigger weekend?
Yeah, if
in
they
South-
win.
No,
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 no, sound
hold
crazy.
on.
No, this is
you
bigger.
have next weekend. I believe we will have a Heat home game. I believe we have the Panthers, and don't we have F1?
Yeah. And Inter Miami
Yeah.
also hosts.
How does that not
Who are the
make
Marlins
it?
playing?
Yeah,
and
but
the
David,
Marlins, are they away or home?
I have
They're
no
home
idea.
against the Braves.
Nobody's gonna be
now.
watching
Ah, the
But
Bravos.
yes,
Yeah.
as the Panthers keep going here, if they win, it's going to keep getting bigger because we've just hardly ever done this in our
But
entire
it's
franchise.
Next weekend in Wrigley.
The second round advancements. Say the Panthers beat the Maple Leafs, it wouldn't be as big as beating Boston in the first round because that's a historic team.
You beat them on the road. That's the big difference. David, if they win
you
2
beat
home
a 65-win Boston Bruins team. That's what everyone's going to remember.
yes, but if you, like to David's point, next weekend they have 2 home games. Like if they win that, it's not nearly as exciting as going to the Mecca and beating the Knicks and then going to Boston and beating
See,
the
the
Bruins.
goal is the
Beating
ring.
the Knicks in Madison Square Garden,
It's fun.
It didn't mean much to me. It paled in comparison to what the Florida Panthers did last night. I understand you guys are Knicks fans and you think it's this big deal. It's not. The Heat were in the Eastern Conference Finals last year.
I'm just talking as a day for a South Florida sports
No,
fan.
it was a great day.
You had
Have
a
a
day
day.
yesterday.
No, it was a day.
Yeah, it was a
certainly.
great day.
But historical perspective, like they weren't. You never get these kind of underdog stories simultaneously. Certainly don't get them in South Florida.
Right.
Let's revel in that, especially since they are 8 seed. They don't have in each conference. They're the biggest underdog to make it out of their own respective conferences. So let's enjoy it.
I think that's why it feels so gigantic and why we're sitting here saying, like, even if next weekend or the weekend after changes, I think until you get to a point where both of these teams are potentially winning to go to championships or winning championships overall, the feeling of an 8-1 and to replicate that twice in the span of 3 or 4 days, like, nothing feels like that.
And it wasn't some bullshit injury, right? It's not like the Derrick Rose injury where you lose hope and you lost your best player and there's always an asterisk next to it. These teams straight up beat these really good teams. I know Bergeron missed the first couple of games. I didn't miss Bergeron. He played with a herniated disc. All right, that's still an incredible Boston Bruins team.
Do you
There's
remember
no real
when-
excuse that you can make if you're these teams.
Do you remember when the Heat were the #1 seed and the Knicks were the 8 and the Knicks beat them? May
Yeah.
have been 99.
Right.
or-
You could use the lockout as an excuse that wasn't really a true 8 seed. What was it? 6 games separated the 1 and the 8 seed that year?
So I'm looking back on that as being a fan of the 8 seed who won, and my recollection is only that we didn't get a title. So the reason I'm having a hard time right now reveling in this as a South Floridian
No titles were won.
is this is only good if there's a title.
Well, I mean, I think part of it is that, like, these teams were kind of written off, right? Like, no one expected this day to still be
Right.
here. So it feels good now. And, like, I think if everyone was being honest, they don't think it's going to last that much longer, which is why, like, they're kind of expecting this is not going to be this good feeling a week from now or a week and a half from now.
2 months from now, I'm going to still think back of this Boston series and say, God damn, that was
No, I
fun."
mean, look, 3 months from now, you're
So
probably
much
not
fun.
going to care. Like, you're,
No,
you're
I-
not going to look back and be like, oh my
No,
God,
I'm gonna-
May 1st was one of the best days of my life. You're not going to care.
Oh,
then.
I would. I still look back on that. I mean, it happened last year, but I was in Washington, D.C. when the Panthers finally broke their streak of not being able to get it past the first round. And I was there for that when they beat the Capitals, and it was a top Panther memory in my life.
David, we're fans.
Yeah, we
No,
love.
but it's
that's
not
what
like
love our
it
I
is.
team.
appreciate you as fans. I really am.
I don't look at this like, a money equation.
No, but like 2 years. I think what he's saying is 2 years from now, if you look back and both of your teams were eliminated in the second round,
Give
you're
me
not
the
going to
top
look
5
back and
days
say
in
this
South
was
Florida sports
I
history.
exactly.
disagree.
You won't,
I disagree.
you won't
May
name this.
1st.
I disagree
That is
strongly.
definitely where my head is.
my head is going to go, if you say games I was at, I'm going to say Game 6 Panther. It's going to be one of the first things I think of.
Yeah, I disagree strongly. I'm going to remember that Panther upset over the Bruins forever. Everyone is.
Wait, David, are you saying
That's one of the biggest upsets in the history of the game.
Are you saying a top 5 sports day in any city has to produce a championship?
It's hard to
Because
imagine.
I would say LeBron coming down here,
Guys,
just deciding to come
guys,
down here would be a top
Guys,
5
people
sports
remember
day.
Dikembe Mutombo celebrating in Seattle's Key Arena court.
Yeah, but
in a
LeBron-
5-game series. What we saw last night in Boston, people are talking about as the single greatest upset in playoff history. They overcame a 3-1 deficit against the greatest team of all time. It's going to be remembered forever in that sport.
But LeBron coming down here led to the Big 3 era that was 4 years of being the most relevant team and 2 championships. So, like, that day wasn't a championship, but it was part of that championship story.
Wait, I'll give David an example where I think this is probably a top 5 sports day for you. They didn't win a championship, but the Knicks getting the ping pong ball and getting Patrick Ewing. That had to be a top 5 day for you.
No.
Really?
At the time, it was very exciting, but looking back, no. Looking back, it's just another stuck envelope.
But you don't have. All right, so you have these championship or bust aspirations for the Knicks, but when have they delivered on that in your lifetime?
That's the whole point,
Never.
right? 73 was the last time. And
You
I
remember
started-
that?
No, I was only 5, so I started only
So-
going to games in 75.
So no joy.
0.
Zero joy.
Now, the biggest,
None.
the irony is my number one moment as a sports fan was Game 7 against the Pacers when they finally made it to the finals. 94-90 at the Garden, Knicks over Pacers. And how pathetic is it that that's my number one day?
That's what we're talking about as Panthers fans.
Right, it's pathetic.
But you're saying that we're not.
Yes,
you're saying that
we're
that's not a
pathetic.
memory for us. Yes, it's
we're
a pathetic
a
existence.
pathetic franchise.
He's saying that in 5 years you're not going to have this
But he
as the
remembers
number 1.
that stupid
If
Knicks
we're
thing
lucky.
in '73 or whatever it was.
I'm
That
not
was
gonna
a
have it.
championship.
You guys just don't know hockey. You guys just don't know puck. If you think that people are going to forget the Panthers upset over this team, this Bruins team, that had 3 more wins in NHL history than the next closest team.
Name one team in one sport with the record for the best record in the regular season that's won the title that year.
They just showed a thing. I don't think
The
it's ever happened.
72
None of them.
Dolphins.
Yeah, but
Hey, there
then
it
the
is.
Patriots
He
were
got you.
undefeated and lost to
All the
Giants.
current record holders lost.
All
The
current
Mariners
record
in
holders.
01, I believe, they just showed it up here. It's wild. All of them lost.
I'm
You
just
don't
saying,
lose
it's
in
great.
the
I'm
first
happy.
round. You don't lose
This
in the
is you
first
happy.
round.
Save it for the playoffs. You don't want to play a possum. You know what I mean?
How about 3 weeks from now, Billy? Mark the calendar. We asked Mike Ryan and Chris Cody their top 5
No, they're
sports
going to dig
days.
their heels in on this. I
All
know
right,
how they
let's
work.
wait
If
a
you're
year.
saying top
right?
five
Wait a year.
top 5 sporting events I've been to, it's just gonna be in it forever. I mean, I can't think of another.
I hope
Dwayne
not.
Wade's final game is in there for me.
Oh, please.
In terms of events I was at. I'm serious. It is. That was an epic game. Dwayne Wade's final home game. You guys don't remember that?
I don't even remember
Yeah.
it.
Bad fan.
What happened?
I remember Gretzky's final game as a Ranger. Those can be memorable, but you don't want it to be
great
in your
one.
top 5.
The great one.
It means you haven't had a good run as a fan.
Well, the Panthers haven't had a good run, and that's why they're saying yesterday was a top 5 day for them, and I don't blame them. I don't.